If you've ever worked in a restaurant, a bar, or any other facet of the service industry, then you know the dirty little secret that every restaurant has. No, not the chef's drinking problem, though, yeah, that too. Big white truck, blue letters, never on time when you need them the most. Sysco. And if you've eaten in a diner, a cruise ship, a wedding, or a hospital, you've eaten Sysco. You probably just didn't know it. This isn't the farm-to-table fairy tale that every chef dreams of. The reality is that it's warehouse to walk-in nightmare fuel. And these guys, they built an empire doing it. Our story starts in 1916, Waco, Texas. A baby by the name of John F. Baugh would be born that would grow up to change the restaurant industry forever. Baugh grew up doing the kind of honest, hard work that doesn't necessarily look impressive on a resume. Ranch chores, grocery stock work, the kind of grind that teaches you two very important things. One, nothing gets done without logistics. And two, people sure as hell get hungry every day. By 1929, at age 13, he was stacking shelves at A&P, and by his 20s, he'd worked the grocery floor, the back room, the loading dock, and the books. He understood food distribution the way a mechanic understands an engine, from the inside out. Fast forward to 1946, just after World War II. America was changing. Refrigeration was changing. Frozen foods were the new frontier. So Baugh founded Zero Foods, a company dedicated to frozen goods, long before the rest of the industry caught on. Zero Foods wasn't glamorous, it wasn't even large, but Baugh had the foresight to see where the country was headed. Restaurants were multiplying, highways were spreading, post-war America was moving, eating, growing, and demanding more than ever. By the mid-1960s, the food service landscape was a mess. A disorganized patchwork of regional distributors, all fighting over slices of a pie that was rapidly expanding. But nobody was thinking nationally. Nobody except Baugh. In 1969, he convinced 8 other independent distributors, some of them competitors, to merge into one unified company, the Systems and Services Company, Sysco. These guys saw a problem and they offered the fix. One company to feed them all.
Cast it into the fire! Destroy it! No.
This new entity launched with $115 million in combined sales, a titan for its time. And in 1970, Baugh took it public, a national distributor born overnight, not in New York or Chicago, but in Houston, Texas. From that point on, Baugh wasn't just a businessman. He was a tactician. He orchestrated dozens of acquisitions through the 70s and 80s. Their biggest move came in 1988. When Sysco paid about $750 million for CFS Continental, the third largest food distributor at the time, a move that added thousands of employees and pushed Sysco into nearly every major market. Over the decades, the company built and modernized warehouses, added temperature-controlled trucks, and layered in private labels and specialty units. Fresh Point for produce, Sigma for chain restaurants, and Guest Supply for hospitality services. By the 2000s, they built an empire. Over 340 warehouses, 75,000 employees, and a fleet of over 9,000 trucks snaking across America. They serve over 730,000 customer locations, from Michelin star restaurants to high school cafeterias. And with a market cap hovering around $38 billion, Sysco became the kind of company that no one could compete with and everyone depended on.
It's where I buy all of my food. And most of my stuff.
Ambition does have its limits, though. In 2015, Sysco tried to merge with its biggest American rival, US Foods, in a deal that would have reconfigured the supply chain forever, making them the undisputed king of distribution. The Federal Trade Commission took one look at the deal and said absolutely not. They saw what this would mean. Fewer competitors and total control over pricing and distribution. The courts agreed, and a preliminary injunction, followed by the company's withdrawal, stopped the merger in its tracks. This public defeat didn't break Sysco. It sharpened them. They went on a buying strategy where antitrust risk was lower, either geographically or in niche product lines. They learned how to be big without being obvious about it. They paid out a total of $313 million in breakup fees, and after a bunch of additional expenses, the failed merger cost Sysco around $700 million. And for the first time in decades, the empire had been told no. Sysco didn't just stop there. In 2016, Sysco acquired the Brakes Group in the UK, expanding across Europe and solidifying Sysco as a global distribution power. And behind every Sysco truck is a person, a driver clocking a 12-hour shift, a warehouse worker in the cold, or a rep trying to hit a quota. The system runs on sweat and logistics. And there have been plenty of labor disputes, lawsuits, and wage fights, but the machine never stops. Because if it did, the restaurant world would just collapse by the end of the week. Now, efficiency is a beautiful word, until you realize what it means in practice. In 2013, whistleblowers in California discovered Sysco workers storing meat and seafood in unrefrigerated sheds. We're talking 90-degree heat, sometimes overnight. The state hit them with a $19.4 million fine, one of the biggest food safety penalties in history. A drop in the bucket for Sysco. Sysco promised reform, fired a few folks, and then moved on with their lives. Because when you're serving 600,000 clients across the world, the occasional oopsie-daisy is just another line item in the quarterly report.
Why are you the way that you are? Honestly, every time I try to do something fun or exciting, you make it not that way. I hate so much about the things that you choose to be.
Here's the thing. Sysco isn't some big evil corporation. They're necessary. For most small restaurants, I would even argue that they're inevitable.
I am inevitable.
But let's not do the villain monologue without a pause. Sysco is a miracle for access. They keep school lunch programs running, they let hospitals, prisons, and shelters get reliable, inspected food on schedule. They made food safe, consistent, and accessible. They made it possible for small diners to serve salmon in the middle of Iowa. Without Sysco, half the restaurants in America wouldn't survive the week. Independence would crumble, schools would shut down meal programs, and hospitals would run out of pre-cubed jello, and the world would descend into total madness. The thing nobody really wants to admit is, Sysco didn't sneak in through the back door like a thief. We invited it in. We held the door open, we rolled out the red carpet. Hell, we handed them the keys to the walk-in. Because at some point, the restaurant industry, this chaotic circus of dreams and egos and unpaid overtime, became too big, too fast, too demanding for human hands to manage. We wanted consistency. We wanted safety. We wanted convenience. We wanted the same mozzarella stick in every bar from Portland to Pensacola. And Sysco said, yeah, all right, we got you. And you can't really hate them for that. But if you're absolutely going to, you better spread some of that hate around. To the customers who demand perfection for $14.99, to the landlords raising rents, to the margin shrinking tighter every year. Sysco didn't kill the romance of cooking. It just industrialized the parts nobody romanticized in the first place. It replaced the simmering of demi-glace for 6 hours, the chopping of squash until you form a callus on your index finger, and having to make 400 molten lava cakes from scratch.
Take a frozen cylinder of ganache and you set it in the ramekin so that as the outside cooks fully, the inside becomes molten. Okay. It's fucking molten, see? It's fucking molten, you asshole.
Because when labor costs are high and margins are tight, everyone takes the shortcut when it's offered to them. Sysco didn't murder craft. Craft was already bleeding out in the alley long before that. But let's not pretend Sysco is an innocent bystander either. When the trucks roll in, they carry in more than boxes. They bring sameness, predictability, the culinary equivalent of beige carpeting. A world where the fries taste the same in every bar and the cheesecake comes from the same factory. The pulled pork is pre-cooked and the calamari is pre-breaded, pre-everything, just waiting for some tired line cook to drop it into a fryer and call it house-made.
You are not the best. You are not a beautiful or unique snowflake. You are the same decaying organic matter as everything else.
And maybe that's the tragedy. Not that Sysco exists, but the industry learned to depend on it the way a 9-to-5 office drone depends on his morning coffee. Not because he loves it, but because without it, the whole machine seizes up and dies. Sysco is the IKEA of food. It delivers convenience, it delivers reliability, it delivers a warm, comforting lie. that every restaurant can succeed if it just has the right boxes. And maybe we all bought into that, but somewhere out there is a chef who is still brining their own pickles because they can't not do it, a baker who refuses to order frozen danishes, and a line cook who still takes the time to make the ranch dressing from scratch. That's the part Sysco can't touch. That's the part it can't package or palletize. So the next time you're sitting in a restaurant, your favorite spot, the one you brag about to all your friends and swear that it has the best whatever in town, just know this: behind the romance, behind the specials and the curated playlists and the whole facade that is a restaurant, there's a truck pulling into the alley at dawn. And inside that truck is a choice that every restaurant makes: be efficient or be exceptional. Most restaurants choose Sysco because it's the only way to survive. But the ones that don't, you can taste it. You can feel it. They burn themselves into your memory. Those are the restaurants you go back to time and time again because there's just something special about them. Sysco keeps the industry alive, but the people fighting against it, those stubborn, overworked romantics covered in burns and flour and cigarette smoke, they're the ones that keep it beautiful. And honestly, the world needs both. If you made it this far, do me a solid and hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, leave some love down in the comments below. Let me know if you'd like to see me cover more companies like this. Thanks for watching, you guys, and as always, stay salty, my friends. I'll see you next time.